Hi, this is Tasheena.
This is Jonathan.
And this is We Watch What We Watch, where a married couple talks about movies and TV because we both love it. So we thought for our first episode, we should just review the movies that we've both seen in 2024. The first movie we both saw was probably the one we're going to talk about the most, and that's Dune 2.
Dune.
We are both huge fans of the first movie. We're so excited to go see this. I saw it twice. How many times did you end up seeing it, Jonathan?
4 times.
4 times. I can't. Just the length of it. I just couldn't imagine seeing it 4 times.
Sometimes it was a struggle, but
did you feel like each time you saw it was different experience or kind of similar each time?
pretty different. I mean, when I saw it the first time, my expectations were actually kind of low.
Okay.
I love the first movie, but I was worried about the second half, how they would make that compelling. It's actually my least favorite part of the book, the second half, because it starts to feel like everything is on rails. There's not a lot of character to the people around Paul.
Yeah.
But so with that in mind, going into this one, I was really concerned with how they would do that, how they would pull this off. I also thought the first movie, the weakest parts were at the end when they were in the desert with the Fremen.
Yes.
And I think in hindsight, that's because they didn't have enough time to really develop them properly when that first movie was filmed. And the locations. And so I was a bit concerned about that. And mostly I was concerned about how are they going to make this relationship with Paul and Chani believable on screen.
Yes. Because the book, it's okay. I don't know. So, yeah. So both Jonathan and I have read Dune. And for the most part, I like the book. Like, it's definitely feel like a acquired taste type of sci-fi. I feel like some people really hate it. But the people who love it seem to like really enjoy it. And reading it, I really am surprised by how well these movies were able to adapt this book, because I didn't think it was going to be possible. Or just be more, it was all right, I didn't think it would be that great. But I think each movie, I feel like Denis made some really good choices. Like, he's very good at making adaptation choices on like what to keep, what not to keep, what to build out, what he can, maybe put to the back burner. The Fremen stuff was also okay. I probably like the beginning of Dune 2 a little bit more than like the ending of the first one. At least, especially the second time I saw it. The first time I saw it, I had a hard time like kind of getting into it in the beginning. There were a lot of good moments, like, when he rides the sandworm, so there's thankfully a lot of good moments throughout that first part that still kept me engaged. But it was mainly after that part where, to me, it like really kicks into high gear for me. And then I love the rest of it. The second time I saw it, the issues I had with it kind of went a little bit more to the back burner, and I was able to really focus in on like what I really liked about the second movie. There's just so much I really loved and enjoyed, especially the religious aspects of the movie, and Paul's arc and Jessica's arc, like just all of it. I feel like all the arcs were really strong in this movie.
Yeah, he did a much better job than I expected at giving each character their own arc, which wasn't absent from the book necessarily, but he did a real good job at highlighting the things he wanted to bring forward and adjust as needed. And so for me, my experience with the first half was actually probably the opposite. I really, really enjoyed the first half, probably because my expectations were so low going in. I thought, okay, the Fremen stuff really isn't that interesting because it was very one note in the book. And he did a great job bringing the subtext out of the book and making it text and giving them a lot more dimension with Chani and her journey. I was so pleasantly surprised with how well she played her relationship with Paul on screen.
Oh yeah.
Zendaya did a great job. That sold me. Even from the trailers, I was worried because even the trailers felt kind of unearned because the trailers sort of skipped to like the middle and end of their relationship and the scenes they showed to try and sell the audience on like, look at these passionate lovers. But it felt unearned at that point because we hadn't seen it yet, and I was really worried. But they did a great job like showing her initial reaction to Paul, which is this apprehension but respect, because he really makes no missteps in how he integrates with them. And you can see in all their little interactions from scene to scene, every scene progresses his relationship with her and his relationship with the Fremen in a very believable way. So I was very sold from the beginning, even from the first half of the movie. And then obviously when it hits with the water in the second half, then it just gets even better.
Yeah, because Chani is so interesting, and that's what I was talking about with just making the right choices with adaptation. Like he took a character, like she was fine in the books, but he really gave her a purpose. She is our view, the foil, and she loves Paul so much and trusts him to an extent that even though people around him expect him to be the Messiah, he's not. She's trusting him to not play into it, to that he's doing what he can just to be like, hey, you guys, this is your journey. You guys the Fremen will lead themselves out of oppression, not me. Not, I want you guys to leave this. And because he was sincere at first, that he really wanted this to be like a Fremen-led exodus out of being oppressed like all these decades by the Empire, by the Harkonnens. And when that turn happens towards the end and he kind of takes the mantle of Messiah, man, just seeing it through Chani's eyes, it's just so crushing.
It is terrifying. It is awe-inspiring. It is sad. It is inspiring and leaves you feeling very unsettled in all the right ways.
Exactly.
You are ready to die for Muad'Dib in that moment in the theater. While at the same time realizing how messed up this is.
Yes, completely. And I think I remember mentioning this before, but one of the things that really strikes me at the end is everybody sits down at one point when he's having his fight, or I think it's right before the fight with Frey, and the women in his life, so Jessica, Chani, and the princess, are still standing up, and each one of them, the way that they are looking at him says everything about how they view him, like their position in his life, where Jessica is not only his mother, but like the zealot, this manipulator. She's in awe of Paul, and Chani is the doubter, but she still loves him. And Princess, is it? I can never remember how to pronounce it. Yes, she is like this weird, distant observer. Like all this time, she's just like observing like everything that's going down, and now she's pretty much a captive. Like she is a war captive that's going to be stuck there if he wins. So I thought it was interesting that Denis kind of had really focused on the women in Paul's life, kind of how they view him, his changes, and his arc. Because the only really male perspective we get, I think, is Javier Bardem's character. I'm losing his name right now.
We actually get a couple. We get, Javier Bardem, Stilgar.
Where he is the ultimate follower.
The zealot.
the believer. Yes, the believer. And Freyed, his cousin. Fade. Sorry. I'm really bad with names, so I'm just warning everybody. This will be a recurring theme. Words are difficult, especially names.
Now, do you think Gurney Halleck is a separate perspective from Stilgar?
It's interesting because he is also a believer, but more of like a
in a
cynical
different
believer.
way.
Yeah, where he's a believer because Paul's agenda is his agenda. So that's when he gets on board with Paul.
I think it's a little more than that.
Okay.
I think they are meant to be sort of two sides of the same coin that lead to the
Mhm.
same ends. One being a religious fervor, and one being, I guess the closest I would say was like a nationalistic fervor.
Oh,
Like
yes.
when Gurney gets on board is when he reveals that he still has the signet, his father's signet, and
Yes.
he is, so overcome with emotion in that moment. That's when he is lost to him as well.
Yep. Yeah, because it's not. Yeah, he's a believer, but it's not in the
Not
religious
the
sense.
messianic messages, no, but yeah,
Yes, it in a nationalistic sense. You're correct.
there's probably a
And then
less cynical reading of that too, but
and
that's what
then
struck me is the two sides of the same coin that both lead to the problem, which is the cult of personality, the figurehead,
I mean, we
how they
see it
come to the end.
all the time in history where people, kind of like Paul, have followers who have kind of different reasons for following them. Like followers, especially when you have a huge following, it's not they're not the exact same carbon copy follower. Like some are following them for this reason, some are that reason, and I think having both of those was both of those characters was a good way of representing kind of different sides of following, like pretty much, yeah, a cult, a cult of personality. And then we got our snake boy, we got our creeper, Austin Butler, off in the shadows. Talking about two sides of a coin, like pretty much, he is the other side of the coin of Paul. Like I feel like because Jessica went against what she was supposed to do, and Paul was a male. It's weird. It's almost like Frade was supposed to be, in a way, Paul. If Paul was a girl, like they would get married.
Yep.
It's just it's very interesting how much changed because Jessica made the choice that her child was going to be a male and not a female.
Talk about laying the groundwork. There was a lot of things in the first movie, changes
Hmm.
made for the sake of adaptation, which I didn't clock at first as being as meaningful as they ended up being. So we talked
Hmm.
about Jessica's arc in the second half, and how she sees Paul, and how it's very much this manipulator.
Yeah, yeah.
She obviously loves him. People are
Hmm.
complex; they have multiple
Oh yeah.
motivations,
Oh
which
yeah.
is
You
why she's a
definitely
great
see
character.
that in the first movie when he takes the test. Like you see how much Jessica
Mm-hmm.
loves her son, but she's also manipulating and training him to be this messiah figure, and so sometimes that takes over, and it's hard to be a mom when you also are trying to do this as well.
And I think it goes back even. I think the key change that they made in the first one, which I didn't clock until this one was being important, was the fact that was her reasons for having a son to begin with. So in the book, it's very clearly stated she did it for Duke Leto. He wanted a son. She loved him so much that she wanted to give him a son. Rules of the
Correct.
gamut.
I remember that, yes.
So that was the main purpose. And the movie, the change that did was they actually hint at it in her meeting with the Reverend Mother in the first movie, where Reverend Mother accuses her of, in your arrogance, you thought you could produce the Kwisatz Haderach. So instead of purely producing a son because Duke Leto wanted it, it was more that, no, she actually was trying from the very beginning, before he was even conceived, to produce the Kwisatz Haderach, which very much leads into her arc in the second movie of trying to
Oof,
see that
yeah.
through to fulfillment. Because otherwise, it sort of comes out of nowhere, and you're like, why, why is Jessica being like this? But he very smartly laid the groundwork in the first film to lead into that, where even the whole reason for Paul existing is slightly different than in the book.
Yes, because in the book it's like, hey, if it happens, it happens. Where here was in the movie is very deliberate. This is her goal.
Yep.
Which definitely gives her character more flavor. Talking about, oh my goodness, Jessica. Rebecca Ferguson, who plays her.
Treasure.
I love her so much. She was able just to play that balance so well. I was terrified at some moments even more than what's his face, right? Like Jessica terrified me, and especially her plan with like will reach the little ones, the
The
outcasts, right?
weaker
You know, like
ones, yeah.
the
The
weaker
weak
ones. Yes,
ones.
and I'm just like, oh, this is this is too much like real life. This is
Mm-hmm.
terrifying. And she is so determined and smart. She makes it happen. Like, she makes it happen. She sets the stage so when he drinks the water, it's all just there. Bam, bam, bam. It's all set. And also just the sad inevitability of him knowing he has to go to the South. And what he's trying so hard to avoid, he just can't. That really got to me. Because you could tell he really doesn't want this.
And yet,
it
is the only way.
The only way. And when he does, he goes so hard. He goes so hard.
Does the only thing in half measures.
It goes from like 0 to 60 so quickly. He's like, oh, especially when he's yelling at the Fremen. I'm just like, ooh. Damn, boy. He's like, fall in line.
Yeah, I think if someone pointed to me and started talking to me about my dreams, I'd probably just shit my pants.
Exactly. I just like, I get it. Yeah, when he's telling the guy about his grandma and stuff, I'm like, yeah, that's a lot. It's just, yeah, the tragedy is it being inevitable.
We've danced around a little bit. We haven't even addressed the biggest and smartest adaptation change, which is Aaliyah.
Oh, especially
that was the talk of the town before it came out. So how are they going to do this murderous toddler?
Especially after David Lynch's Dune,
which we are not knocking.
We're not.
We are fans.
What?
Let that be known.
Yeah, yes, we are. I love David Lynch. I love the look of that Dune. I just feel like for that movie, it was the script and trying to shove everything into 2 hours because it then just becomes exposition dump after exposition. There's really, it doesn't feel like characters. It feels like people just saying what's going on. And that's why I'm so glad it was 2 movies, and I think it was able to let the story breathe and actually have characters who aren't just saying, this is what's happening in the story now. You know? So, but yeah, we're not David Lynch Dune haters here. I appreciate it for what it was. That said, Child Aaliyah, killing me. It made me laugh so hard. And that was so smart. That was so smart. No, just cut it. Just cut it.
Once I realized that was the direction I was going with, that they were going to skip the time jump completely, it all clicked.
Yes.
And it was just like, wow, this is the best way of doing this. And it still managed to achieve everything that the book achieves with the impact of this, fully sentient fetus. The moment where the water, the way he can use the sound and the lighting and everything to convey this horror when the fluid first hits the fetus and it awakens, that hit me really hard.
That was some great imagery. Just like
practical transitions there with the lighting, how it sort of goes down.
Because it's like you don't want to lose like the creepiness factor with Aaliyah and how she's like a sentient child. So I thought that was a very good way to get that across. Like, hey, this ain't a normal baby, she's talking in her mom's belly. Like that's not normal. And so it gives that creepiness without it coming off as silly, which is what always happens like when she's a child acting like an adult and doing adult things. I don't know if it's just our brains. It's like just seeing it, I laugh. Where reading it, I can let that sink, but seeing it just makes me laugh every time. So I thought that was just a really smart choice. And Anna Taylor-Joy, I really hope she's in the next movie. I really hope she plays Aaliyah in the next movie because she just has that great look, like with her wide set eyes. So even her look kind of gives a bit of an alien feel. So I think
Absolutely,
that, yeah. So I think that would be a
presence.
great, that was great casting. And I hope that they stick with that. And I hope it works. And she's available because that girl's busy.
Yeah.
As we'll talk about later with another movie.
Well, this will be a lesson to everyone about how to do an adaptation properly.
Oh, yes.
Because
Because people,
even as someone who had read the book, and I was worried about this, I was worried, like, now that I've read it, I'm gonna just be counting the scenes they missed, the plot points they cut, everything that I wanted. I was worried that I was gonna succumb to that, but I didn't. I was on board from second one. I was just able to accept what was being shown, and honestly, did such a good job keeping what mattered and what was important that I had just completely forgotten most of the things that they cut
yeah.
until afterwards when I started remembering it and going like, oh yeah, he was supposed to do this thing. He was supposed to be, and there was this other character I completely forgot about.
Paul and Chani had a child.
Yeah, so much. They cut a lot, and yet it doesn't feel like they cut anything.
Because I feel like what's important is keeping the same emotions and feelings, like how you feel about the characters, like what the story presents. And I think Denny did a really good job at like what makes Dune Dune, like what feelings, what themes, like what we get when we think of Dune is still present in these two movies. And I think it's brilliant. I really enjoyed both movies.
Yep. Nothing takes me out of a movie faster than feeling like I'm watching a Wikipedia article where they must hit every
Yes.
point.
Yes. Oh,
every plot point, every side plot, every fan favorite moment, every fan favorite character. We have to hit. This has to please
forget
everyone.
the fans. Just forget it.
Yeah. Fans are the worst.
Yes.
Their opinions
I've
don't
seen
matter.
I've seen so many adaptations that feel like the book on fast forward. And nothing can sink. Nothing can hit. Like you're just rolling. And I'm just like,
you gotta hit all the things.
and I hate that. I'm okay if you have to cut like half the book and focus on the things that matter. Do it, because then you could probably actually get characters and moments and storylines. Like if you need to cut all the bullshit, that's fine. Just make a good movie. And the end of the day, even if it's considered like quote unquote a bad adaptation, as long as it's still a great movie, I do not care.
Yeah. Some of the greatest movies of our time have been bad adaptations.
Exactly.
Jurassic Park is a bad adaptation.
Exactly.
Something like that. If you're a fan of the book and you wanted that translated movie, you're probably going to be disappointed. But it's a much better movie for it.
Yeah, and same with, I think one of the best viewpoints I've seen of adaptation is when Garland did Annihilation, and literally he just read the book and he only jotted what impacted him, like the things that got to him. And some of the stuff that he focused on the movie were just like little moments in the book, but really resonated with him. And he's just like, I really want to expound on this. I really want to dive deep into that. So it's interesting. I feel like the movie is similar to the book, but it's also very different because he took a different path. He focused on what was important to him. So it is Alex Garland's Annihilation. And honestly, that's what a movie should be. It doesn't need to be a carbon copy. It just needs to be the director just needs to have a view. Just need to have a viewpoint, what he wants to get across, and it is his version of the story. I don't need another carbon copy of something I love. I already have it.
Yep.
All right. We ready to move on?
Sure.
All right. So next we have Love Lies Bleeding from director. Oh man, I really should get my letterbox up. I believe it's Rose Glass. Double check. She previously did the movie Saint Maud, which great movie. Jonathan hasn't seen. I've seen. It's very interesting religious movie. especially religious horror. I feel like a lot of religious horror is usually like The Exorcist or something like that. So every time I see a religious horror that is not just another version of The Exorcist, I
Right.
really appreciate it. Like, let's do something a little different. So I loved Saint Maud, especially the ending. I won't spoil it. It's just that like the whole movie has this ambiguous mode and then just has an ending that hits so hard. I was not expecting the ending to hit that hard in Saint Maud. So if you are a horror fan, especially if you love religious horror, watch Saint Maud. Like it's amazing. And so this is her second movie, which I we saw the same day as Dune. I think it was my second watch of Dune and probably your third.
Yeah, I think it was my third.
And so we did a double feature because we had a babysitter. So you gotta get those movies. You gotta get those movies in when you can. Yes, the director is Rose Glass.
All right, how would you describe Love Lies Bleeding? Quickly.
That is a very. It's very. Let's see. What does Letterbox says? I don't know. It is kind of like 80s thriller, but kind of more in the noir vibes. But it's also like grimy and dirty, which I really liked because Saint Maud just seemed very like pristine in its presentation, like very clean. And this is so different. This movie is very different from Saint Maud in the way it's like, I don't know, grungy. It just like 80s grunge. And so you have Kristen Stewart who works at a gym and she falls head over heels for Katie O'Brien's character, who's a bodybuilder. She ripped and beautiful. I think Katie O'Brien is great. I really hope we get more of her. I really liked her. You got a crazy Ed Harris running around as her dad. And so pretty much, Kristen Stewart's dad is just one bad dude and shenanigans. Like, I don't know how to say. It's like just a lot of shenanigans, dead bodies everywhere. It's also interesting because I feel like the ending for this one also had kind of like a whoa type ending, which I think narratively fit with the movie. But I don't know. I need to rewatch it again because I think I was expecting a certain ending, a certain result that didn't really happen. And so instead of feeling like elation at the ending, I think there's a little bit of a disappointment. But I know it fits. Like it fits with like the character's arc, the character's journey. So I want to rewatch it again, knowing kind of like where everything is going to go, where everything's going to lead. And I just wanted to see Katie O'Brien Hulk out.
Well, she kind of does.
She does.
Against some other unsuspecting people.
Yes. Just a lot of visual interests I really enjoyed, especially when the scene where Katie O'Brien trips out during a very important event.
Yep.
And it was, I never want to do drugs. After that, I was like, I'm sober now. Holy crap.
Yeah, I thought that was a very interesting portrayal and perspective from the usual. Showed the power and the terror of it.
Yeah.
You feel really sorry for her in that moment.
Yeah, you definitely, that was a real bad trip. So I think this movie really got to me because I loved all the characters. And no one's really like a great person. Like even our two protagonists, they felt like just real human beings to me. Just like a little bit of a low life, especially with Kristen Stewart, but they love each other and it's beautiful. And they had real chemistry, which honestly, so many movies have love stories with no chemistry. So to see one where I feel like the chemistry between the two leads was really high, I just appreciated it so much. I really loved it. I don't know. You have any more thoughts on it?
Yeah, I mean, basically everything you mentioned. Just a wild ride.
Yes.
But it really does a good job bringing you in, getting to know these people without passing judgments. Just presents it how it is. Yeah, the ending I was not expecting since I hadn't seen Saint Maud. I feel like there maybe should have been some sort of cue in to help prepare me for that moment.
Okay.
It took me
I can
out of
see
it a
that.
little bit because I was not expecting it to be that kind of movie.
Yes.
Now, so watching it a second time, I would probably be a better experience. I
Yes.
already
I
liked
think
it,
so
but
too.
I think
Yeah.
expectations are a powerful thing.
Yeah.
And you did have the drug sequences, and you had this warping of perspective, but not to the point that...
Yeah, it was just such a whoa.
I think I was harsher on it when we first came out of it, and I thought it really didn't work. And now in hindsight, I think it does. It's just that I wasn't expecting it, and I don't want to be one of those people that takes everything they see so literally, because it was not meant to be taken literally.
No, not at all.
Not at all. You're one of those plot hole people.
No. No.
So yeah, I think if I watched again, it would all come together. But yeah.
Yes.
Highly recommend.
I definitely want to give it another go. Also, for those out there who have not seen it, just to give you warning, if you are a prude, do not see it. There is sex.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. So, which again, I appreciate because I feel like, especially if R-rated movies, it's just like
the enemy of gamers and Gen Z alike.
Oh no, are we the old people yelling at the sky? No? Okay.
We get to yell both directions.
Oh, fun for us. So yeah, I'm not sure if I have anything else more to say. It's also been a while since I've seen it. I feel like in the future, when
if
we
had done
see
this
stuff,
right afterwards, it probably would have been.
We probably have a little bit more to say. Yeah.
It's also hard because you don't want to spoil some things, but
yes. So I think going forward, especially since
go see it.
Exactly. Yeah, go see it. And in the future, we're gonna have to definitely figure out how much we want to talk about in review. Because I don't want to spoil things for people. Especially if we're seeing it the week after something comes out. I want to give people some time to see it.
We have probably one viewer here, and we really don't want to ruin their entire viewing experience.
No. Even if it's just one, I do not want to ruin their movie-going experience.
Actually, I've just been told that our one viewer is a bot. So.
Oh no.
They probably already know.
Oh well. All right. So our next movie that we saw together, which honestly is a huge surprise, Jonathan went to the movie theater to see it, is Abigail.
Oh yes.
And this is the team that brought you Ready or Not, which we both enjoyed a few years back. I made Jonathan watch it. See, Jonathan
not a big horror.
Jonathan's not important. I am. I love horror movies, dark movies. That's my thing. And I can usually get Jonathan to maybe watch 2 or 3 a year if I'm lucky.
Usually,
and they usually have to be fun.
Yeah, it has to be some sort of fun.
Yeah, not too serious. Usually it's like horror comedy. I feel that you're okay with, because the gore, here and in Ready or Not, it's not realistic. It's over the top gore.
It's so over the top that it really does not. Affect you in the way that you might expect. So
exactly.
That's fine.
So we had the opportunity to go out one evening, and this is the same weekend this movie came out, and I'm like, hey, you want to go see a vampire ballerina? And I was well,
the trailers spoil it.
The trailer.
If you have not seen the trailers, too bad it's not spoiled for you too. The discourse around this movie is always the same, which is, if they had just kept this a secret, it would have elevated it to the next level. So, as we've already said,
yes.
So this team kidnaps a girl based on some job they have. They're going to hold her for ransom, but as they quickly find out, this job is not what they expected. It turns out the girl and her family are vampires, and this was arranged for her to have some fun and suck some blood.
She does have we won't say here, but she has a reason for doing this. It's not random, which was interesting. I wasn't expecting that.
They try and sneak in a little bit of development there.
Yeah. But what's also interesting is it's almost like when they made the movie, they didn't realize the marketing would be so heavy in, oh, she's a vampire ballerina, because they spent almost a good 45 minutes, maybe even more. Like, we're in a different movie almost, where this team, we get to know them, and this seems like this poor girl. Like, the reveal comes a lot later than I was expecting. And
later, but not late enough that it ruins it if you know it. And I think that's the big thing. No. It's definitely the movie felt like it was planned to be a secret.
I know,
but
I feel bad.
It's a catch-22, and they were in an impossible position. Because
exactly.
If they had not revealed in the trailer, I don't think anyone would have seen this movie.
Yeah, because that was the reason why people came.
Maybe you could have banked on some word of mouth, and after those initial reactions, banked on a slow roll, but that's risky. I don't necessarily blame them for spoiling this one because it was so thin without the reveal. I will say that for me, I knew going in. I knew going in what the reveal would be, and I knew that it was going to be an issue, that it was going to possibly reduce my experience. So I went into it knowing that I was just going to have to get out of it what I could. And I'm going to say I don't think it actually hurts it that much knowing the reveal. It did not feel like it. It didn't feel like it dragged at all. They have a nice cast of characters, nice ensemble. They're all very unique and very well written and performed to differentiate themselves from each other and to stick in your memory. And their interactions carry it even before and after the action starts.
Yes. That I wrote down was one of the major pluses of this movie was the cast. The cast was excellent. I thought they were having a good time. I don't know, especially in a horror movie like this. Yeah, in a horror movie like this, if the actors are not having fun with it, you feel it. And just some of the line deliveries, the energy, it was just really well done. I was very surprised.
I was very worried that the reveal was going to be so important that after it happened, the movie was going to nosedive. That everything would be built around the suspense and the turn, and then it would just be, and then the vampire kills a bunch of people. And when it is revealed and she does escape, after she kills the first person, I'm like, okay, and now here we go. Now it's going to get into the usual one by one. They're walking around alone for some reason, and you get picked off one by one, and it's just about the kills, and then we get to the end, and the person wins. But that wasn't it at all. I was very pleasantly surprised by the direction they took with this. Basically, she toys with them.
Yes, which probably helped with the lead up to the reveal not feeling so long, is because before the reveal, she's like pretty much messing with all of them, which made it fun in a way because we knew as the audience, at least majority of the audience knew.
There's value of a different kind, knowing when they did that.
Like this little irony. That little vampire child is just being a little shit and having fun with them. And she was great. She was the girl who was in the Matilda movie on Netflix, the one that came out, I think, in 2020. Our daughter's watched it many times, so we have watched it many times. And she's great in that. And so this was very different. And she really held her own. I thought it was excellent. It's very hard to find a legit good child actor. And she really did well. Along with one of my old-timers, Dan Stevens.
Dan Stevens is the GOAT.
Oh my God. Holy crap. I just love him so much. And he came to play in this movie with his weird New York accent. I don't know what accent he was doing.
Yeah, I didn't buy that.
I didn't buy that, but it made me laugh so much. Just because it weirdly gelled with like the hard like cop character he was doing. So this weird like harsh accent. I don't know. It gelled for me. I'm like, I don't know what he is doing, but it's working for me. I don't know what is happening. The lead girl, lady was fine. She was in the latest 2 Scream movies. She was good in that. She's good here. The other highlight for me, Catherine Newton. She's also been in a few other horror movies. She was the younger blonde.
Yep.
And I don't know, she just has this light air about her. I think she is just naturally likable and fun. Like, she's the lead in, I think we've talked about it before, but Freaky, and the same thing, like, she's just really good at, like, drawing you in, and I'm sympathetic towards her. Like, I'm like, "Oh, I hope she makes it," you know? Kind so, I don't know, just it was just a fun
It was a lot of fun. It was
time.
great. Even after the reveal happens, they find
Yeah, so much fun.
some great laugh out loud moments. There's one where I was dying. Just
Oh, yes.
they say a
Ugh.
line, and just the juxtaposition of that line with the situation they're in just hit me so hard that I could not recover for
Yeah. I
the rest of
know.
the scene.
Poor Jonathan was just, like,
Doubled over.
bent over
I don't know
the
what
seat. Kinda like,
it
"Can't breathe."
wasn't even that great a lot, I guess, but just it hit in the exact right moment.
Yes.
And
Yes,
that's
I
the
agree.
whole movie. That one line.
Like, that's it. Winner.
The ending drags a bit. That is the
A little
weakest
bit.
part. Is the the final scene. I thought it suffered a little bit too much from some of the tropes. It
Mhm.
dragged.
It
It
could have
kept doing
been sharper.
those
Yeah.
fake endings where like the big like
Yes.
pulling their punches, like kept doing that. I did that about 5 times too many. But it was fine.
Yeah.
It was
Oh, yeah,
it was a good time.
I especially the '80s, like, I've seen so many horror movies and slashers where it's like, "Is this, like, the 4th ending?" Like, "Wait, is this the ending? How many more endings are you in?" Everybody horror movies were doing it way before Return of the King was, let me tell you
Mhm.
what. Okay, so before we move on, our next one is a pretty big one and pretty recent too, and it's Furiosa, the legend, the myth,
Isn't it the legend?
whatever.
The myth, the man, the legend. I don't know. The man,
The
the myth,
myth,
the
the
legend.
late.
The man, the myth, the lady.
So we both love Fury Road. Am I correct? It is, for me, it was one of my favorites of that decade, especially since I like action movies, but they're not usually like my top tier movies. You know, the movies I like going to. So
Mm-mm.
I actually put off watching this because I'm like, I just didn't think it would be my thing. That was Fury Road. And when I saw it, I'm like, "Ah, Tasheena, you should have saw this in the theater. What were you thinking? Oh, you dummy." I think that's one of the only movies I regret not seeing in the theater was Fury Road. So I didn't, even though Furiosa is different, I didn't want to make that same mistake again. So that's why I wanted to have a good experience with Furiosa. Didn't happen my first round,
Yeah,
but
speaking of basement dwellers.
I had a nightmare of a person next to me on my first viewing of Furiosa. I pretty much, your stereotypical incel basement dweller was sitting next to me, and boy, he thought his takes and his commentary were gold, and I'm just like, "Shut up!" the whole time. But it wasn't like enough to where I could like say to someone like, "Hey, this guy's talking. Can you kick him out?" Until like the last half hour when he turned against the movie and apparently hated it a ton, and I guess didn't he didn't care if he got kicked out or not. I don't know. But by then it's like the last half hour, so I'm like, what am I gonna do? Go find someone to kick him out? And then I miss the ending. So I went to go see it a second time, and I'm glad I did because I really enjoyed it. And there's definitely things I missed the first time I saw it because I was so frustrated and distracted that I caught my second viewing, and I think helped with some of the gaps I had. And I was also able to let certain things sink better because this is very different from Fury Road. I
Very
think if you
different
expect
to its benefit.
it,
That
yeah,
was my
oh yes,
number one
yes,
concern. Was it was, and why the first trailer did not catch me. To be fair,
mm-hmm.
I did not see the first trailer. The first time I saw it was literally on my phone, which was a huge mistake. I should have known better, but it did not catch me. All I could see was, the more modern CGI, which turned me off. I thought, oh no, they're just going to try and do a Fury Road, but with worse CGI and less fewer practicals, and I'm like, this is gonna be bad. I'm not interested in this whatsoever. But couple things changed my mind. Well, one, I then saw the trailer in a theater at one point. It started to catch me a little more then, because you could you really start to get his vision more directly.
Yes.
We rewatched Fury Road, and that made me realize two things. One, boy, does George Miller have a direction. Like, it's very specific, it's very unique, which is very compelling. Mm-hmm. And two, there's plenty of CGI, including some very bad CGI, in Fury Road. Now, obviously, all you remember in hindsight are the great practical effects, the practical car chases. But there's lots of CGI. But it's done very, I don't want to say tastefully, but very with great intention, with vision, with a style. It's done with flair. They're not always using it to be literal or realistic. It's using it to convey an emotion, a feeling, like art is supposed to do.
Yeah. And
so I thought it was very effective, despite being quote unquote bad. And so that allowed me to open my mind to the possibility that Furiosa would be fine. That sure, it maybe uses less practicals than the first one, fine, but to really open myself up to witnessing his vision a second time, and I'm glad I did, because it definitely paid off.
Furiosa is very interesting in its look, its style, what it shares with Fury Road, but also how different it is. And you're right, it definitely benefits from being very different and not Fury Road 2.
Absolutely not Fury Road 2.
Not Fury Road 2, which is good. Personally, I was probably more into Fury Road because of the lean, mean fighting machine type of action. Like, it is continuous. There are no breaks in Fury Road. Furiosa definitely has more downtime, more it's not like just go the whole time. And in some ways that's great, because you're able to get a lot more character moments that I think land a bit better, because you're able to like not have to go at like a high octane pace the whole time. The only part that I think went a touch long for me was some of the beginning stuff when she's with the main bad guy, or I think he's supposed to be one of the main bad guys, Chris Hemsworth character, Dementis. When she's with him with the little kid, some of it could have been slimmed down a little bit in the beginning, but it's fine. Like, not enough to where it was like bothering me in the theater, where I'm just like clicking my watch going, come on, let's go.
Yeah, the beginning was rough for me, because that's where I felt the most trapped in it being a prequel. Like, I was feeling almost physically like claustrophobic.
Oh no.
Just because it's a prequel, and you know that this girl will not escape.
Yes,
otherwise, because the movie has to happen.
Yeah.
So, and I think the movie in general could have been tightened up a little bit, and especially here, because they kept playing these moments for drama, but it was undercut by the fact that you knew the outcome.
Yeah.
And that it tends to be the problem with prequels. And so you're trying to find other things to latch onto, to get your drama from, and to find out what happens. And at the beginning for this movie didn't have some of those things going on yet, and so you're entirely left with, will she or won't she escape, which you know the answer of. So that was the hardest for me to get through. But after that, I started to lock in more. I started to get more invested. We started to bring in other characters and situations that were more compelling, and that's when it started to even out and then go up for me.
Yeah, I feel like he did a great job of not falling into a lot of the prequel traps, but there's still some you have to like you said, she's not going to leave, she's going to be captured. Like, there's still some things you kind of bound to. So I think he did the best he could with the structure he was kind of left with, and I'm okay with it. I was okay with the reasoning why she got stuck with Dementis. Made sense to me. Like, those things were fine. I was fine with it. But once her with Dementis run into our Fury Road villains, that's where it's like, okay, we're getting there. It's starting to go. What did you think of Chris Hemsworth?
Chris Hemsworth was amazing. I kept forgetting it was him.
I did too.
He did a real good job blending into inhabiting his character. The nose,
The most and
the
it was
voice.
almost jarring at first. Like, I'm like, whoa, is this a good performance? Because it was so jarring. Because he's so over the top, and the nose and the voice. But going throughout, I'm like, okay, I'm kind of getting what he's doing. And honestly, in a world like this, we have all types of over the top villains. He's just another one, and he's just even more flamboyant than some of the other ones. And when I got to the moment in my head, I'm like, oh no, he definitely fits in this world. I was really able to enjoy his performance. Yeah.
And you kind of have to go big because you're in some big
know.
company here with big characters, with very big outfits, big names. You gotta look like you belong.
This is so much fun.
And actually, they sort of take that they take that meta commentary of, you're being introduced into a story where you know half the characters and their big presences, and you have someone coming in trying to belong. And not only is he doing that from a movie to movie perspective of, hey, does this character, does he stand up next to, the ones we know? But in the story, it's the same thing. He's trying to assert himself as being a contender.
Yes.
And his first interaction goes very poorly.
I love his interaction.
Which I think is great, both from a meta perspective of, you don't want to, I think a lot of prequels, sequels, what extensions of existing universes run to a problem where they want to introduce someone new. They have to get you to take them seriously. Otherwise, they're not going to be a threat and the story's not going to be compelling. But you also have all these legacy characters, which are fan favorites. There's the fans again, coming into everything. And you don't want to make them upset. Because then they go and they trash your film on social media. So how do you do that? So in this story, I thought it was handled very well. You have this character who's sort of he's an upstart, but he's not just the biggest, baddest bad that you've ever have batted on the wasteland. He doesn't come in and just show up everyone and kick all your fan favorites in the teeth and walk away laughing. It doesn't do that to set up the stakes.
Exactly. We see where he both succeeds and fails. Like
spectacularly.
Yeah. In
both directions. He comes in and you get your great moment where your fan favorite characters, even though they're bad guys, they knock him down a peg. So great, you've satisfied all those people. Okay. Morton Joe did not get his ass kicked, even though, by the way, he's a bad guy. But whatever, he's a fan favorite, so fine. So he shows this guy up, but they're able to then keep the story compelling by showing, okay, how does now Dementus rebound from this? Because he's a goof, both in his performance and in character.
Yes,
but
he is.
Still pretty smart. He is
interesting. Yeah,
is he smart, or is he just
a fails upward type thing? I don't know.
Does he just have no boundaries, or does he just overcome by sheer? I don't know what the word for it would be. I'm not actually. I haven't completely decided if he's actually smart or not. But
I don't know. I don't know.
Conniving. He finds a way.
Like a street smarts almost.
Yeah, he's driven. He's very driven, and he does not like being slighted.
Yes,
and
I think
he goes
that ambition helps.
Yes, he goes to lengths that other people do not expect.
Correct. Yes.
No one would expect anyone to do this, but he does. Is it because he was smart enough to know their work, or too stupid to realize that it probably would fail? So maybe failing upwards is the best way to describe him.
Who knows?
Like, this plan is crazy. It's not going to work. Which then works because no one would expect it because it's so crazy. Anyway, he does a good job of then coming back from his initial defeat and achieving a series of underdog victories, which was a very smart way of doing it and a very fresh perspective. I guess I just keep thinking of, Marvel does this all the time, where the next big bad and they come and they just stomp everyone. That's how they establish how big of a bad they are.
Oh yeah,
but it's interesting. Ultron. It's interesting establishing a bad guy as the underdog, because he's the underdog, but he's not the protagonist. He's the antagonist. But he's the underdog.
helps make compelling because you're rooting for Furiosa, but she's in between these two different awful people. This poor girl is just trying to survive amidst all these terrible, terrible people.
But at least she has Jack.
Oh, that's the only. Honestly, that's the biggest note I want to give to George Miller. Should have more Jack. Come on. Hopefully there's a cut out there. Maybe there's a director's cut that has more of the character Jack.
The sultry cut.
Yeah, exactly. So, if you can't tell, he was definitely one of my favorite characters. And I definitely appreciated his relationship with Furiosa. Again, people with chemistry.
It was nice to see some warmth in this hellhole.
Exactly. And I think that's what that character was needed. Not only is he a mentor, it's just like, even if it's not romantic, there's still a deep friendship, a warmth there.
I think it was romantic.
I do too, but I'm just saying though, if it wasn't, it's still, there's still a relationship that I'm like, oh, not everything is terrible. Not everything is awful.
Which is why it couldn't last.
Oh, don't.
The wasteland is awful.
We can't talk about it.
What a heartbreaking scene.
I think that's it. Do you have any more thoughts before we wrap this up?
No, just recommendation for all these movies, obviously. But Furiosa, I think, needs it, especially right now, because unfortunately it's not doing well.
Fine.
At the box office, but it is absolutely worth a watch.
I think so too.
Just know that it's not Fury Road, but it's not trying to be, so that's not a knock against it. It is its own movie, and it's worth watching.
I really enjoyed it, especially if you can get on its wavelength. I really think it's a really fun ride. Really good storytelling. Still really good action. Man, the man knows how to do action. Let me tell you, George Miller knows where it's at. He's 80 years old out in the Australian desert doing things that directors half his age would not do. It is crazy.
Yep.
So
knows his desert and knows his V8s.
Yeah, exactly.
Makes you want to go out and buy a all-terrain vehicle.
Go nuts on the desert.
Some diesel.
spray the chrome.
Witness me as I go to the grocery store.
So pretty much that's it for a wrap up. So from here on out, we'll pretty much, when we watch movies together, we'll talk about it. Or if I watch something that I want to force Jonathan to hear me explain, that'll be a part of it too. I feel like the only other two movies that I have seen that you haven't, that we might revisit later in the year, is I Saw the TV Glow and Challengers. I told Jonathan he has to watch these two movies. So when he does, at some point, we'll probably have a double feature where we talk about both these movies. But other than that, I think, honestly, these were some of the highlights of 2024 already. So I don't feel the need to backtrack.
But does
I know.
Diminish from their achievement.
I know. I just wish, especially for Furiosa, I wish some of these movies got more love. It's just crazy that Dune 2 is pretty much the only movie that's doing it.
Well, doing it. All right.
So I think next time we're definitely going to watch Hitman. Inside Out 2 is on the list. So probably come in another week and dive into those two.
All right.
Thank you for joining us on our first episode of We Watch What We Watch. Hope you had a good time. We'll see you the next time. Bye.